Welcome into episode 44 of the Level Flight Podcast. My name is Connor, and today we've got a full crew. I'm going to be joined by Brian and Elliott for the first time in what feels like forever. And we are talking storylines. We outlined all of our favorite storylines heading into this season, and we are back into a full schedule for September. We're going to be back to recording once a week, previewing the season, training camp content, all of that good stuff. So subscribe if you're not already, and stay up to date with the episodes that we're dropping, and enjoy episode 44. And welcome into episode 44 of the Level Flight Podcast. My name is Connor, and I'm joined by Brian and Elliott today. We're out of the summer, so everyone's here. We got a full crew.
Woohoo!
That's how you know school has started, and we're even a little bit less busier. How you guys doing, Brian?
Doing all right. It's been a busy week, but we're starting to roll into school now, so it changes gears. It's still busy, but in a different way. So
Yeah, Elliott.
Yeah, I'm good. Been same with Brian. Been busy, but yeah, school still tons of stuff to do. So, but needs more time for the podcast. I will say that. So that's great.
There we go. And there's actually going to be some things that we can talk about in the next month with training camp. And for the next 2 weeks, we'll preview the season. Or for the next month, we'll preview the season. And then October, there's actual games to talk about. And that'll be fun because we've been talking about speculation and stuff like that for the past month or so. So to finally get to talk about some actual things will be fun. Before we get into hockey and the Jets, today we're going to talk about the storylines we're most excited for heading into next season. Canada's men's basketball team is doing some special things at the World Cup right now. Half an hour ago, I want to say, they beat Slovenia in the quarterfinals, and they're going to the semifinals now. So at worst, they're playing for bronze. Have either of you guys kept up and watched? I mean, I think we were all watching that Spain game where they made the miraculous comeback in the fourth, but yeah, what have you guys seen? Like that, this has been a crazy run.
well, the thing that I've just constantly thought about is how this team is going to get better if everyone actually, declares for, the Olympic play.
Yeah.
But this team with, some of these guys that I truly think that you're seeing a coming out party for the national basketball team in Canada, because I feel like a lot of people kind of let that fade a little, like especially after like the Steve Nash days, and it hasn't been as captivating. But there's so many good players now coming out of the Canadian programs where it's just you have no choice but to watch because they're just must see TV.
Yeah, like the crazy thing about this entire team is this is a team of guys, excluding Andrew Wiggins because he didn't. Well, I'll get to him in a second, but essentially, this team is guys that have decided and committed to Rowan Barrett, RJ Barrett's dad, that they will be there at every single event, every single practice for 3 years. So this is them culminating after them missing the Olympics 3 years ago, which they should have made. They should have won. They should have beaten the Czech Republic, but game happened and is what it is. I've watched this team I've been getting up every day to try to watch all these games. This team just keeps getting better and better. The crazy thing is they're not even considered one of the deepest teams. They're considered one of the more talented teams, but not one of the deeper teams. You add to this roster of already a bunch of NBA vets and guys that are good in FIBA, like Kelly Olynyk and a bunch of the like Nickel Alexander Walker's another guy that is okay in the NBA, really good in FIBA. You add Jamal Murray, who would have been on this team if not for injury. Wiggins said that if they made the Olympics, he would commit and come to everything beforehand and go. And there's a bunch of other, like I think Brian mentioned, we were chatting about the other, like Benedict Mathurin, who just had a good rookie year for the Pacers. And I would even think like someone like Zach Edey, once he has a little bit more development over this past year in college, now that he's played in a couple of FIBA games, like you have to think that this roster going into against 12 other the best quote unquote teams in the world at the Olympics has to have some sort of chance. Like I would actually put them up against the US. And if the US doesn't roll out like LeBron, Curry, Kyrie, sorry, I guess Kyrie can't play for the US technically because he's declared for, I believe he's declared for Australia. There's a bunch of guys that could play for the US or Australia or this and that. Right. But like if they don't roll out like LeBron and this and whoever, I would think the Canadians have a good chance of beating. Like, you look at the guard depth on this team already.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Trey Bell-Haynes is not a bad point guard either. Like, he's a good
Mm-hmm.
FIBA point guard. You replace him with Jamal Murray and you put like RJ Barrett coming off the bench. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's
Yeah.
nuts. So no, this
Yeah,
team has
and
been really fun to watch.
And what you
Yeah,
failed to
and-
mention was the fact that Kelly Olynyk is the greatest basketball player. to ever
That's who
live.
I was mentioning when I was saying
Oh,
guys who play really well in FIBA.
goodness.
Don't do that. He is Canadian Kelly is one of the best.
Canadian Kelly.
No, I will actually argue
goodness.
that he will, next to Steve Nash, go down as one of the greatest Canadians to play for the national team. He
Okay,
will have
sure.
close to 60 games played. He's had
Yeah.
some huge performances. He's always showed up for the country. He's never like, obviously when there's been contract issues in this and that, he's said like, oh, I can't come, or like when
Mhm.
they're trying to roll out a different roster during the NBA season, obviously he doesn't go. But anytime there's a summer event, he is there. Same with Dwight Powell. Him and Dwight Powell will go down as good FIBA players that will be in consideration for greatest Canadian. Now, obviously, someone like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, if he continues, same with RJ
Yeah.
Barrett, if they continue, they can surpass Kelly and Dwight because they just are better players, unfortunately. But God, if I'm any other nation, I'd love to have a Kelly Olynyk on my team, a guy who can dribble around, shoot threes, play a stretch role, also
Yeah.
defend the paint. Like in FIBA, it's a lot. Like, I love how people in the NBA are like, oh, we shoot threes all the time. No, the FIBA game is around spacing, drive, kick, and shoot threes. Like, that's literally FIBA. So if you're a big that can stretch the floor, like, that's where stretch bigs came from. It wasn't from the NBA. It was from
No,
FIBA
yeah.
and guys coming over from Europe to play. So yeah, I think this roster is deep, but it could get. I do think that if they could be a little bit deeper in the big department, I think they'd be better, because adding those guys just adds you to more guard and wing depth, which
Mhm.
just makes you insane. Like, you just become insane. Also, I just want to shout out Houston Rockets Dylan Brooks for showing up the last 2 games. I know he did get ejected today, but he should have been ejected or fouled out in the last game too. So
That's a classic Dylan Brooks game. Play good, have some up and downs, and then eventually get tossed in the fourth quarter. That's
when your team's other best defender in Lou Dort also has 4 fouls, and you're playing the FIBA rules, so it's just 5.
Yeah. No, this team has been so much fun to watch. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is so good. And then you add, like you said, once they go to the Olympics, they add Jamal Murray, they add Andrew Wiggins. This team's going to be that much more fun to watch. It's Paris 2024, I believe, is the Summer Olympics coming up. So
how do you pass the ball around to everybody? That's what I want to know. How do you
one
get all the
ball,
touches? Wiggins will want touches. Murray will want touches, and you've already got Shea and RJ commanding touches.
I will say,
how do you figure that out?
The team right now is really good at moving the ball. So if they can just carry that over,
well,
and add in Murray and Wiggins,
that I will agree with you at some points. They were better today
against Slovenia today. Yeah,
but
I'll say
that's
that.
because they looked way more relaxed against Spain, and in the other, like against Brazil and against Spain, there was a lot too much one-on-one. Like, Shea, fine. If you want to go one-on-one in the fourth quarter when we need you to get a bucket, fine. But like, FIBA's about moving the ball and spreading the ball around, and sometimes some of these guys that are NBA players get too NBA happy and they start to try to ISO, and you can't do that in FIBA very much. That's why the US lost, right? Like, that's why they lost to Lithuania.
Yeah, it'll be
Jonas
interesting.
Valanciunas.
Ignas Brazdeikis.
Are we gonna keep bringing up mid centers? All right, let's move on to some hockey.
Let's not talk any trash about JV. Come on.
or Canadian / Lithuanian Ignas Brazdeikis.
Valanciunas was good last year.
Yes, he was very good. Anyway, let's talk some hockey.
Let's talk Jets. We're a Jets podcast. Let's do it.
I don't know if we are at this point. We're kind of just
we've lost the plot a little.
We have. All right, storylines heading into the season. There is a lot of them. There's a lot of drama, a lot of things to watch for surrounding this Jets team. They made one huge move in the offseason, Pierre-Luc Dubois for Velarde, Iafallo, and Kapari. We've already talked about that. Other than that, they're largely bringing back the exact same roster. Hellebuck and Scheifele are still here. Yeah, running it back. We'll see what ends up happening with Hellebuck and Scheifele. That's a storyline we're going to get to. But let's get into it. What is one storyline that you guys are really watching for as this season gets underway and deep into the season? Brian, I'll start with you.
Well, I mean, on a bit of a lighter note, because it's not imperative to the team's success necessarily. But I think it's a very interesting thing to follow along as to who gets the captaincy. I feel like, I mean, in the public eye, it's down to two. It's essentially going to be either Morrissey or Lowry. I feel like Morrissey at the peak of his season, everyone was crying out for him to, get the C before the end of the season last year. And then end of the year into the playoffs, suddenly Adam Lowry was just this absolute force, especially like he just seemed to fire up the team more than anyone else. And then suddenly the narrative shifted. It should be Adam Lowry. Personally, I'm on the boat of, if you're going to give it to someone with a longer term contract, because let's say Lowry, next couple years, he's just Adam Lowry. I don't want to see another 3-year extension. Like, he's a good player. But he's like and if he, like, that's the thing, like, he can play third line center, but he profiles as a fourth line center. But Josh Morrissey is your number one defenseman,
who signed for another 4 years after
exactly.
this one.
And that's not a slight on Adam Lowry, because I have an Adam Lowry jersey. I've had it for a few years. I've always been very favorable to him as he has become what he has over the years. And he's not what he was, a few years ago, but he was solid this year. But I mean, like, he's a guy that after 3 years, I'm not sure you're looking at giving, a lifetime Jet status to.
Yeah, it's something to watch for sure, because there was the Blues goal that Morrissey was firing the crowd up, and it was like, oh my God, captain. Like that right there, captain. There was a whole storyline. It was like, he's going to the All-Star game. When he comes back, he should have a C on his jersey. Like, that was a thing that gained serious traction on Jets Twitter. And people were like, oh, he should come out of the All-Star game and have a C on his jersey and like shock the world. And it's like, well, I don't know if they were going to do that, but now is the time. I don't think you can go 2 seasons in a row without having a captain. So that's a good thing to bring up. And I think if I were making the decision, Morrissey would be the guy for the reasons you outlined.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, it's kind of weird in a sense. Sorry, Brian. Because when you talk, I don't know, you guys probably saw Gabe Velarde's comments about, they asked him who the captain should be, and he went, "Oh, I thought it was Scheifele."
I was going to slide right into that, actually.
Yeah. So it's, to me, Connor, you also did a poll yesterday. Who you posted on Twitter a thread with a bunch of polls in it. One of them was about the captaincy. And I actually responded and I said nobody. And I know that may surprise both of you, but I still don't think that this team, like, I understand that you can say Adam Lowry is potentially, and the players have said this, is the Jets' emotional leader, and one of their actual quote unquote leaders is Josh Morrissey. He's one of the leaders in the dressing room. I still don't think this team has, you need your personally for me, if you're going to make somebody the captain, they need to be your emotional leader, and they need to also be that really good player leader that's going to lead you into battle. Right now, the Jets have that in 2 different players, because I haven't heard anybody say Josh Morrissey is their emotional leader. So there's also the fight that Lowry had in Minnesota that really rallied the troops, and there was that video of him walking down the tunnel, and all the defensive scratches were really fired up. That speaks to the emotional leader thing you bring up there. The poll that you brought up is 121 people have voted. 60% have said Josh Morrissey, 29 have said Adam Lowry, and 10% have said nobody. So yeah, it's kind of leaning more towards Morrissey at this point. I've seen other media members do other polls, and it's been like dead even split 50-50. I've seen Lowry be in the 60% part of that. It's really dependent on who you ask. Yeah.
But I'm of the mindset that they need to name a captain going into next season, because I honestly think that's something that hurt them last year, was not having a set in stone leader when they were struggling down the stretch. And they still viewed Blake Wheeler as the captain. They came out and said that after the year ended. So you've got to buck the trend and you've got to say, okay, Wheeler's gone. We have a new captain, a new leader of this team, and it's got to be one of Morrissey or Lowry.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of like that they didn't last year, because then the blame went to everybody. Yes, I get that they still picked specific players like Wheeler, and they still talked to Morrissey and this and that. But I liked that the players said, nope, we weren't good tonight. Or like not Blake Wheeler going into the scrum and going, oh, yeah, I'm taking full responsibility. Like, I will share this. I know this is common knowledge to everybody, but I've now been to a couple Bomber games in the media room, and like I went down and I've now spoken to Zach Claris, and I'm in the scrum with him, and I get it's a different sport, but like Claris is taking responsibility for like everything on offense. And it's like, well, some of the problems, like when Brady fumbled, that's not your problem. That's Brady. Brady made that mistake, right?
Right.
And he's like, yeah, we need to clean up. We need to do this and that. And so I get that Claris can do that because he's the quarterback, is normally the leader of your football team. But in hockey, it's different. Like I get that you can pinpoint one player, but it's different when your quote unquote best player isn't your captain. Like I kind of think of it like the Leafs, like while John Tavares for a while Matthews was still becoming a good player, was like Tavares was the captain, right? And people were like, oh, Tavares is still the best player, so he should take responsibility when he doesn't score and he doesn't show up in big moments, right? So I liked last year that Rick Bowness and the Jets said, nope, you guys need to fix the locker room issues, so you all need to take accountability. So if they can continue that and name a captain, fine. But if it goes straight back to one player's taking all the responsibility and they feel like they're higher than everybody else, then I don't want it.
That's a fair statement to make. I'm not going to disagree with you there. I'll let you take the next storyline, Elliott. What are you looking for going into this season?
I'm looking at it's kind of a combination of the two. The first, when we were chatting, actually, Connor had brought up roster construction, and I think is one trade where you're technically, I'm not going to count the Blake Wheeler they released him, or they bought him out. Sorry, to use correct terminology, they bought him out. I'm not counting that. You trade Pierre-Luc Dubois away to LA, you get rid of one player, and you're getting back three. Is adding three players essentially enough for the Jets to quote unquote contend? And for me, I don't know if like that's a storyline. I don't know if that's enough.
That is a storyline. Are the Jets improved?
Yeah, I don't know if
yeah.
Is that improved? And we saw over Jets Twitter, this is another thing to talk about in that roster construction is the decor. There was no changes after last year. They said at the draft, Kevin Cheveldayoff said he wanted to make some moves and do this and that and try to open up spots for defensemen. Well, he hasn't done that. He's re-signed Logan Stanley. That's essentially all he's done to the decor. He brought back Logan Stanley, which means that there's still a logjam on defense. He didn't trade a Schmidt. He didn't trade a Dillon. He didn't trade a DeMello. He didn't trade anybody. He didn't let guys go that he was trying to make room for. So I think that is also something, because we talked about the defensive core last year was iffy, up and down. Some guys had a really good year. Some guys didn't have a good year. And some guys just were all over the place, aka Neil Pionk. So it's hard to say with roster construction by adding three forwards, which technically this team's forward group was supposed to be the strength of this team, other than goaltending. You don't add anybody to defense or move anybody. So I don't know if roster construction, is this a better team? I don't think it is. I think it's around the exact same.
Yeah, my longest article of the offseason so far was that very question, was are the Jets an improved roster heading into the season? Because it's a multi-layered question for sure. And the fact that their lineup is deeper up front, it's better defensively up front. You add Iafallo into the middle six. If one of Velarde and Perfetti can take over that second line center role, I think their forward core is a little improved. Now, does the defense core regress a little bit? Does Connor Hellebuck maybe regress a little bit? Those are things you can't really predict, except for the fact that Josh Morrissey's going to regress from 78 points. That was when
hot take.
No, not a hot take. When a defenseman is at 30 points his entire career and then jumps up to 80, he's going to come back down to 60 range.
Yeah.
But back to your original question, is this team improved? I agree with you. I think it's somewhat the same. I lean towards the slightly improved, but then there's the looming question of Hellebuck and Scheifele. And it's like, well, if they don't even play the whole season with the Jets, then they're definitely not improved, right?
Unless they bring players back, and it's not just draft capital, but
if you're trading away Hellebuck, it's gonna be like future assets coming back because no team that trades for Connor Hellebuck is gonna be worried about the future. They're just gonna be like, we're trying to win right now. I'll let Brian.
We know you're on the phone, but
I'll let Brian take a stab at this question here.
I've been stewing over this all off season where it's just I don't see a single situation where if they're in the hunt, they trade either of Scheifele or Hellebuck.
Yeah.
And we know what that means then. That means we're losing 2 key players for nothing. One more key than the next, but you're still like the thing. Scheifele, likely with him having a contract year coming up here, he's probably going to have the best season of his career. And he's coming off, he's a 40-plus goal scorer.
Yep.
And then you've got Hellebuck, which we've spent episodes upon episodes talking about his importance. So I'm not going to hash that. Everyone knows. And he's also probably going to have a better year this year because he has a competent backup and he's not going to have to play all the time. And yeah, it's the unfortunate fact of the matter is maybe one or both of them, see strides towards a better direction and they change their minds. But everything that we've seen so far make it seem like if they're not dealt, they will be walking. I mean, Hellebuck more so is because we heard something from the Athletic from that where it was that his next contract extension will not be with the Jets. We haven't heard much out of the Scheifele camp. A lot of this is just assumption. But that's the thing where it's like I don't really know where the organization's at on that either. Because let's be real, like this market is kind of soured on how Scheifele his general reputation is not positive right now. Let's say that. But regardless of what that is he scored 40 goals last year.
Yeah. And also someone has to play center. Like, you can't just trade away. I guess
we have 2 of those.
The Boston Bruins are trying that strategy this year. We'll see how it works out for them. The center strategy. Like Adam Lowry can't be this team's first line center. Someone has to be a top 6 center. And that's why I made the take, I think a few weeks ago, that I think they should extend Mark Scheifele as long as the price is right.
Yeah.
Someone has to play center.
I wouldn't have an issue with it because, like, let's be real. His game is frustrating at times. Probably not the most frustrating on the team, though. So I bring that up a fair amount. But losing 40 goals suddenly puts you in a realm of, oh my God, they're really not a good team anymore.
Yeah.
Because you're not making that up.
I agree that I think that you need to bring one of these 2 back. But I genuinely think that because Mark Scheifele's been so wishy-washy, I think you actually personally, and this may be a hot take for some, I think if there's a better chance to convince Connor Hellebuck that this team is a quote-unquote contender and pushing for the playoffs, then they can convince Scheifele to stay.
Yeah.
Because all Hellebuck wants to play for is a winner. So if you can convince Hellebuck that this team we're trying to win, if they made moves at the deadline and said, look, we traded for this, if they actually did make moves at the deadline, because I don't know if they know how to do that. But if they actually went for a target and said, or 2 targets and we went for you, and we've now bolstered, let's say, the defense, because I think that's where they need to do that. Then you can convince Hellebuck to say, hey, just sign a 2 or 3 year extension. Then if you want another 2 to 3 years, we can do that after a year. We can try to make something work, right? Like, but I think trying to keep Mark Scheifele at this point for me, I kind of think is null and void. I don't really think that there's much you can do to keep him because Hellebuck has said, I will stay here as long as you can provide me a contender that is playing in front of me. But if you can't do that, I won't be here. So
yeah. Winning fixes everything. That's the saying.
Well, unless you're Mark Scheifele, because if you're winning, you still want out because you want more money.
Well, I don't know if the Jets can be classified as a winner these last couple of years.
I don't think they've
So,
been a winner for a long time.
yeah.
Actually, not
2018.
that. Well, yeah, I was going to say
2018.
2017, 2018, which I guess that's not that long ago, but
Yeah. It only
is
took
kinda-
us 20 minutes and 10 minutes of a basketball conversation to bring up 2018. We're getting better. We're getting better.
God, I hate being the franchise that reminisces all the time about previous. Yeah.
Previous runs.
But at least we're not talking about like 1975 or something. Like we could be talking
True.
about AFCO Cup wins over here, but
The Avco Cup. Man, those were the days.
Oh wow, those late 70s.
Wow.
But
Dynasty.
before we move on to the next storyline here, I'm gonna quickly provide a wonderful word from our friends at DraftKings. Can you believe that we've had 7 months without an NFL game? Crazy, right? Well, good thing that's over. The NFL is here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is giving you a can't-miss offer for Week 1. This week, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 on any NFL game. DraftKings is hooking everyone up with game day greatness. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every single game this September. Check the app to see what you get. Download now and use code THPN to sign up. New customers can take home $200 in bonus bets instantly just for betting $5. That's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY or 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. See dkng.co/football for eligibility. Terms and responsible gaming resources are there for your availability. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. NFL's back.
The NFL's so back. I'm so ready.
are you
On
sure?
Thursday, Chiefs, Lions.
Oh my God, what a matchup!
It actually is. The Lions are like the Cinderella
Yeah, it is.
breakout team.
No, that
Yeah,
Lions team is actually going to
sure.
be good.
Oh,
Yeah.
It pains me to say that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, aren't they in your division?
with the Packers hoodie on.
Listen, I'm a realistic fan.
I
Like, let's
realistically
be
know
real,
that the Colts will still be picking top 5 next year.
No, they're going to be relegated.
This
To the
is Europe.
CFL.
No, they're going to play in the XFL.
I wonder. I know this is way off topic because we've already talked about NFL and it's kind of off topic. But you do know that they were considering that, right? Like the CFL being like the feeder league to the NFL and this and that. Like they were debating about like a couple of years ago. Like there were talks and stuff, and then that's why they're making all these other football leagues like the AFL, the XFL, whatever. They're the NFL. The people are thinking the NFL is still trying to build these leagues up enough so that they can
have a developmental league.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting if the NFL did, because as a Niners fan, you could give a guy that needs some reps, some reps if they were to need one, instead of just trading him away for a 4th-round pick.
To the Cowboys for him to be a backup again.
I genuinely hope that it comes back to bite them.
I genuinely hope that
way
Dak
down the
Prescott
road
just retires this year like Andrew Luck did for no apparent reason, and then just Trey Lance becomes the starting quarterback. The QB University of North Dakota State.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, back to the Jets. We've had to go back to the Jets one too many times today. Yeah. We should let's just make another podcast that's random topics.
We should
at this point.
The Level 5 Podcast Network.
Yeah, let's do it.
And it's all just us. It's no other it's no other like people that run the show. It's just us.
It's just us. Yeah, just us 3. Let's get into some more storylines. I've got a few to bring up here. I brought it up earlier, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. The second line center role coming out of training camp, because I think that spot in the roster is the key to the Jets being improved this year. If you want to talk about they're deeper up front, they're bringing back the same decor. Connor Hellebuck, maybe another Vezina runner-up, Vezina Trophy winning season potentially from him. if the second line center role is won and dominated and like carried through by Gabriel Velarde, I think this forward core is like filled out very, very well. But if there could be a hole there at second line center, maybe Velarde and Perfetti don't look great at center, and then they have to play Nemestikov as their second line center starting out of training camp, right? Because they need a veteran. If you guys were to bet right now, who would be your betting favorite to come out of training camp as a second line center? I'll start with you, Brian.
I'm going a name that you didn't touch on as much. I think Cole Perfetti gets a look.
Yeah.
I truly do, because I mean, it felt like last year would have been a good time to see it, but then he got hurt.
Yep.
But I think a healthy Cole Perfetti down the middle will be a welcome development to this team. Obviously, there's options, but I truly think out of camp it'd be nice to see that as sort of the welcome surprise that, oh, they're playing him down the middle and he looks decent coming out of camp. But I honestly, though, if Perfetti looks good at center, then suddenly the rest of your depth is significantly better.
Exactly. That's the point I was making with the second line center. I mean, if Perfetti can fill in there, they have so many wingers that can fill out the top three lines, right?
Yeah.
It's just a matter of one of those two players breaking out. Elliot, do you agree? Are you on the Perfetti train, or are you lean more Velarde?
I'd like to be on the Perfetti train. I think it's one. I think him being in the middle as a playmaker is great, but I think the other big thing is he's been on the wing and he continues to injure his shoulder, injure this, injure that, right? So from what I'm understanding, obviously hockey's not a safe sport by any means, but center is normally might be a better place for him because he might not have to be along the boards as much. He might be able to be a little bit more protected. Now, do I want Gabe Velarde to be the center? I think that would also be a good option. But then you'd have to put Perfetti on the wing, and you got to hope that he stays healthy, and you kind of just have to cross your fingers and hope that some big power forward doesn't crunch him into the wall, right? So I think for this team, either option is good, but I would hazard a guess to say that Perfetti probably gets the first look. And then if that doesn't work, then it's Perfetti's like I think, let's say into training camp, they do preseason, Perfetti looks okay. I'd say 10 games in, if Perfetti isn't performing to the standard that the Jets want, I think that then Velarde gets moved in. Like, I think he gets like a 10-game stretch, then Velarde gets like 10 games. And then if that doesn't work, then they go to Nemestikov and the other two are on the wings. But I think if you have.
Oh, Elliot? Did his
We
mic
just
just go
lost
up?
Elliott's mic.
Oh, because I hit the button. That's what happened.
There you go.
You
You're in the middle of a
yourself.
great point.
Yeah, I muted myself. Anyway, where was I? Now I don't know where I was.
You're talking about the 10-game stretches with Perfetti, Velarde, Nemestikov.
Yeah. So after that, I said, if you can have, as Brian just technical difficulties, it's okay. We have a new setup, as everyone can see.
Yes.
So anyway, if you have to take Nemestikov and either put him on the wing, or if he ends up being your third line center, that then bumps Adam Lowry to 4. Now, I know people have talked about Kupari being the 4, but he can also play on the wing. So I wouldn't worry about that. He'll be in the lineup no matter what. He's just a depth forward at this point. So whether that's fourth line center or fourth line wing, whatever. But if you can have essentially where your top 6 is like, I don't know, Scheifele, Connor, Ehlers, let's say Velarde, Cole Perfetti down the middle, and Nino Niederreiter, and you either flip Velarde or Nino, whichever way you want. I'm just saying, here's your center, here's your wingers, and your third line is like Nemestikov, somebody else, and Lowry's your fourth line with Kupari. Like, I think I'd rather have them move Perfetti from a wing spot to a center spot, because it opens up more slots on the wings for other guys. And there's other guys that are more positionally flexible than someone like a Perfetti, right? So, the
thing I want to bring up to your guys' point is Kevin Cheveldayoff at the draft mentioned how Perfetti was drafted to be a center, right? And he was like, "Oh yeah, we just traded away Dubois, but Perfetti was drafted to be a center, so maybe he'll get a look," kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's organizationally, that's maybe where their mind is at. But I agree, putting Perfetti down the middle with, like you said, Niederreiter and Velarde, size and speed and skill on his wings to kind of protect him a little bit and keep him in the middle of the ice where he won't get those shoulders hit into the boards as much.
Yeah.
That I think is the key, keeping him healthy, because he can't lose another year to injury. Like, we can't be 3 years in a row that this happens.
Yeah,
He's gotta
he
stay
had
healthy.
such a good year last year up until his injury, and it was good development. So if he can,
Playing
but
great.
here's the other thing: we also have to hope that he comes back and is a similar player. We
Mhm.
don't know that right now. We don't know if he will be a similar player or if his development is now stunted and he is now. We need him continuing on an upwards trajectory.
Even at the same level he was playing at last year, I think he's a good top 6 option.
Yeah.
Even at worst, like a third wheel on a line being kind of carried in a sense by 2 other players. Like he played great with Blake Wheeler last year, and that was like a weird combination.
That's two
Yeah,
passers.
and it was like,
Like,
how do these 2 work together? But they did. And I think
maybe just
what's
Perfetti's just that flexible. I don't know.
yeah, maybe he is. That's honestly something, probably the biggest storyline for training camp that I'm watching. Another one, and I think the last one we're going to bring up before we've got a little bit of a quiz that the guys don't know about yet, but
Connor, I'm scared.
I'm saving it.
I'm really excited. And Brian's been scared this entire time because Connor's mentioned it in the group chat. And I'm just like, I'm super excited. I was like, I'm just super excited. This sounds great. Go ahead, Connor. Go with your last point.
Yes, last storyline, and everyone will remember it well. I'll set the stage. Rick Bowness, after the Jets get eliminated by Vegas, comes to the podium and spends a minute and a half at the podium. We all know what he said. The players didn't like it. Will that carry into next season? Rick Bowness has obviously been coaching since well before any of us were born. So he's a pro's pro when it comes to being a coach. And he'll be able to get past it. Will the players, the new captain, if they name one, are they going to be able to just kind of sweep that under the rug and play freely for their coach the same way they did last year, right? Now, Rick Bowness didn't say anything that you can't come back from. I'm just saying, is if the Jets come out in the first 4 games and look great, and then the next 4 games look terrible, and Rick Bowness says, "Oh, we didn't have any pushback tonight," does everyone freak out and go like, "Whoa, oh my God, he said the P word"? But we'll see. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. It's a question that I've gotten a lot in like my Twitter comments. Basically asking, do I think Rick Bowness and the players will be fine? I think they'll be fine. Rick Bowness is a pro. These are professional athletes. Yeah. But if you see the same issues popping up last year and Rick Bowness brings it up, that's when you'll start to be like, uh-oh, what's going on here? Because that could totally be a thing. Do you guys kind of agree, Elliott?
Yeah, I think that I think that the players, this will still be affecting the players at least for a bit. Like, I think he needs to have I'm hoping he did the same thing he did last offseason. He called every single player. I hope he apologized to all of them. I mean, actually, no, I hope he didn't apologize. But
he did,
I'm sure
in his end of season thing. He said, I shouldn't have spoken after like being that emotional after a loss. I shouldn't have spoken, but I'll never put up with a performance like that.
My thing is like, my thing is if you're that fired up, that's how you genuinely feel.
Yeah.
And as a coach, you should be able to say that. As a player, personally, as someone who has played high level, I know in a different sport, but played high level basketball, when my coaches have said, I didn't like this performance or that was sorry, and I don't know if you tried hard enough. And and as long as they don't say it all the time, because if they say it all the time, then fine. Then don't credit what they say at the end of the season or whatever, or in the final game. But if that's the first time that they've said that, how Bowness said it was, you guys didn't try hard enough. That lights a fire under me. That, okay, fine, then I'm going to go out there and prove it to you. And those guys are all competitors. So at the end of the day, that shouldn't have hurt them as bad as it did. But either way, for all of their egos, to massage their egos, I hope obviously, yes, he did apologize to all of them.
I think it'll be fine.
I think to
Until
begin
it's
the
brought
season,
up.
I think it'll be a slight issue for the first bit of the season. But I think as soon as the season kind of gets rolling and guys start worrying about other things, that will all get kind of left, and they'll just say it was last. And I'm hoping maybe even going into the year, somebody in the media
Last
asks
year.
somebody mentions it and goes, so how did that go over with the start of the year? And some player goes, nope, we've all left it in last season. New season now, we're moving forward. I'm hoping somebody said. I'm hoping somebody asked that. I'd love to be in the scrum or in the media room for that. I don't think I will be, but I'd love to ask that, because that would be my first question. How do you guys feel about what happened last year with Bonus's comments to end the season?
Oh, he muted himself again.
See, I can't move my thumb. This is terrible.
Move your thumb.
I have to hold the mic. I don't have my stand right now. Yeah. Anyway, I was rambling anyways, so I think that was my cue to. Yeah.
It was a sign.
It was a sign that I should just stop because I was rambling. Anyway, you all get my point. It could be a problem, but there's a chance that it might not be.
Yeah. Brian, do you think it'll come up at all?
I mean, I'm with Elliott. I think it comes up briefly, probably because it was such a big topic in the end of year. But as Elliott said, I think it's squashed quickly by whoever's asked, being like, yeah, it's in the past, it's whatever.
Yeah.
And honestly, aside from that, I have no original thoughts on the matter, because both you guys kind of encapsulated it perfectly, because I think it's a bigger deal, or not as big of a deal as people are making it. Because like I feel like most coaches do that, and it's just we haven't heard it in a while in the market. So
yeah.
But no, I don't think it's going to be too big of a carryover, if anything.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's a big deal until it becomes a big deal. Like if something were to happen, it's something to monitor, because if they struggle out of the gate, it could be something that comes up. But it's nice to talk about hockey, talk about some things that are actually going to happen soon. Training camp is in 2 weeks. I believe it starts on September 19th or 20th. And we're all going back to school this week. So you can expect all three of us being here more regularly, rather than the summer when it was two of us or one of us, or we're missing. Yeah. We're so busy in the summer, but
we've got a set schedule this year. I will say that we have a set schedule.
At least
back into a routine. Yeah. Back into a routine, back recording weekly. You can expect Thursday to be the day that the episode comes out, because we're all free Wednesdays. That's when we'll record. And yeah, let's have another great month in September. We really enjoy recording, so it's fun to be back with all three
of
us.
Love it.
Thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you next week. See ya.
Peace. Bye-bye.